Playdate is a brand new buddy comedy action film about an average stepdad named Brian, played by Kevin James, who is trying to spend some one-on-one time with his new stepson when they accept a Playdate invitation from an absolute nutcase, played by Ritchson, and his equally wild son. If that wasn't wild enough, they soon learn that these two crazies are wrapped up in some kind of crazy scheme filled with bad guys, with guns, some crazy fight sequences, and maybe a little bit of a dash of heart. So I would say a majority of people probably know Ritchson best from his TV show Reacher, where he's playing Jack Reacher. But I've actually never seen that show. I'm familiar with the character, seeing the Tom Cruise movies. But I actually know Ritchson best from his acting debut as Aquaman on the CW superhero show Smallville, which is a huge guilty pleasure series for me overall. I've seen it 5-6 times, so that's obviously where I know him best from. And what was interesting is when I watched the trailer to this movie and they have these people walking in slow motion away from an explosion, I couldn't help but remember a similar scene in the Justice League Smallville episode where he and the rest of the superhero gang are also walking in slow motion away from an explosion. Obviously, Smallville was not the first thing to have ever done that, and it's been a stereotype in most action movies, to be honest with you, but I couldn't help but think of it as something that Ritchson did specifically in the past. Now, that's not to say that he hasn't done that in the Reacher show. Again, I haven't seen it. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. It doesn't really matter. I just thought that was an interesting tidbit. But yeah, super cool dude, super big dude. He should play the Terminator at some point. I don't know. Anyways, when I saw the trailer, I thought it was a good time. You got Alan there, you got Kevin James there. I'm a big fan of Kevin James as well. I thought, what the hey? So let's break down the biggest positives and the negatives of Playdate. First, you got the character of Jeff. Now, Jeff is the one that's played by Ritchson. He seems to be the one that's having the most fun in this movie. Kevin James is, once again, basically just playing Kevin James again, which is fine. He's really good at it, and if you're really good at something, do it, you know? But Ritchson, he's basically having the time of his life in this movie, being just absolutely redonkulous, over the top, very funny at times. He's honestly what makes this movie shine. Without him, the movie would literally be nothing. It just would. It's all him. Everything good about this movie is Ritchson. Everything. The next positive about the film, apart from Ritchson alone, would just be the comedy as a whole. This is a movie that is in the ballpark, in the category of dumb comedy. This is an example of how comedy is very much in the eye of the beholder, right? It differs for everybody. What I find funny, you might find boring, and vice versa. I thought that this movie was touch and go with the comedy. There's moments that I thought worked really, really well, and those were the moments with Ritchson. The stuff with Kevin James on his own with his son, I thought was okay. I didn't think anything in the movie from the beginning to end really had me busting out laughing. I might have just giggled here and there with some of the stuff with Ritchson. You, on the other hand, might think that it's hilarious because it really does go all out with its physical gags. Overall, obviously, a movie like this, it's leaning really hard on making people laugh in order to give the film a good score. Now, if you go ahead and you check out online aggregators like Rotten Tomatoes, you're going to see that this movie has received some abysmal scores. On Rotten Tomatoes, at the time of me recording this, it's 19% freaking rotten. And I'm going to say right off the get-go that I think that that is not a fair score. Obviously, when we're looking at the negatives, the main thing that I want to say is that on a technical basis, nothing shouts out as good. Nothing about the cinematography, nothing about the editing, nothing about the directing or color schemes or anything really stood out to me as super memorable, super great. It's all very average. And on the basis of that, I would say a more fair score from Rotten Tomatoes would be right down the middle and say 50%, because it literally is nothing phenomenal and nothing terrible. It's just, that's it. That's what this movie is. It's just, you might laugh at moments, you might not, but it doesn't really matter because that's just what comedy does for most people most of the time. So like I said, technicalities, there's nothing here that shouts out as good or bad. It just wanted to be more fun than technically good. And how you feel after you watch this movie, that's going to determine on if you think it's good or bad. Another negative of the film, and I've already touched on this, is the comedy. This is very subjective. What I say here, maybe you will agree with, maybe you won't, but half the time I wasn't really finding many of the jokes landing for me, and that's probably because of Kevin James. I love Kevin James. I do. I think that his chemistry with Alan Ritchson was pretty fun. But most of the jokes, I would say, were physical gags, and the person responsible for the physical gags was Alan Ritchson, not Kevin James. I guess one of the main things I want to say is that you'll find it funnier if you're high. This is one of those movies that's just so ridiculous that you'll probably have a better time with it if you are a little bit loopy too. My final score for Playdate is 62 out of 100 possible stars. That is a C letter grade. Again, I think that 19% on Rotten Tomatoes is just unfair. I think that this is a very, very average movie at best. It's not great, it's not bad. They did exactly what they set out to do, which that deserves praise. But a 19% score means that they were doing something on a technical level that was bad. I don't think they did. I think that they made a lot of safe decisions for Playdate. And that's how it feels at the end of the day. It feels very safe. But maybe I'm crazy, maybe I'm wrong. Why don't you let me know what you thought about Playdate in the comments section down below? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Were you somewhere in the middle? Leave your thoughts about that in the comment section down below. And as for YouTube, you guys know what to do. Hit the like, subscribe button, and bell to be notified when I come out with my next review, whenever or whatever that may be on. And until that day comes, peace out.